Poet and Food have got the best football analysis show in the world.
I think that is completely correct.
So that must mean that we have got the best Premier League preview show in the world.
I completely agree with that.
Am I right? I'm right, aren't I?
You're right.
Now, thank you, Barnaby.
No
before we start, just got to clear something up with you, Dave, because you had a week off last week.
Yeah.
You snooze, you lose. So your chair is now mine. You've been relegated. Oh, no, we still need you. Come back. We're joined by Tottenham fan Barnaby Slater to preview all of the weekend's Premier League games. So, Barnaby, let's get straight in with this. Have Spurs completely fallen apart?
God, don't start with an easy one. Yes, in a way. I think in terms of confidence, they've absolutely fallen apart as much as they have done in the last 5-10 years. In fact, our away record is as bad as it's been since 2000, 2001 when George Graham was our manager. So from going to from being a team for the last 4 or 5 years where away from home, especially against the kind of middle to bottom range clubs, we would win pretty much every game. We haven't won, I think, since January or something mad like that. So in that way, yeah, we've fallen apart. But I'm a glass half full person. I think we'll turn it around. Some of our injured players are coming back, and I think it can only be a matter of time before we start getting up that league.
Well, I hope so. Where do you think it all started to go wrong for you?
Well,
Harry Winks in the Champions League final. That's where it started wrong for me.
That's definitely what Dave thinks. I think in reality, after we got through to the Champions League final, after that semi-final against Ajax. It was just such a big buzz that we took our eye off the ball in terms of the Premier League. So we started losing a lot of games, especially away then. And in the end, we only got into the Champions League of top 4 just by the skin of our teeth, and because other teams around us were playing just as badly as us. No offense, Dave. So I think it started then, and I think it's a hangover. I think it's a hangover from losing the Champions League final. I also think the players who are coming out of contract, Vertonghen, Eriksen and Alderweireld, they've probably dropped off a couple of percent, which isn't going to help in terms of the team. I'd say a couple of percent each.
Stick the knife in, Dave.
A couple of percent each. And then also I think maybe, the fact that we've got this Amazon documentary in the dressing room. It's not like Man City where they win every game, so the Amazon documentary looks amazing. At Spurs, it's going to make a great documentary, but if you're a player and you've got cameras in there, you're not going to like it. I've also heard today that the players' agents are trying to charge extra for them to do interviews for this Amazon documentary.
No.
So there's a lot of stuff going behind the scenes, I think, that I don't know a great deal about, but I imagine it's not all tickety-boo at Spurs.
So to be clear, we're blaming Amazon for Spurs' poor form. Yeah?
We blame Amazon for their poor form. We're blaming them for their poor form and their inability to pay the right amount of tax.
Right, there we go, Barnaby.
Nice,
now
Barnaby,
then, Dave, Spurs have only won 4 of the 14 games they've played this season. Can you explain that poor record, given the quality they have in their squads?
I think there's a few things. I think one of the things Barney mentioned, the injuries, the new signings not coming in and integrated into the squad. There's a lot of similarities between this and Jurgen Klopp's Borussia Dortmund when that all fell apart. Not as bad, like Borussia Dortmund were in the bottom 3 of clubs, I think they were halfway through the season. But in terms of the pressing and how much work these Spurs players have to do, you eventually get tired, and the methods that Pochettino will to motivate these players to do this will stop working. It's just like a classic effect of if you have the same manager for a long period of time, the majority of the time, if you don't change things like a Sir Alex Ferguson or Wenger, where they do freshen things up every few years, get a new assistant or whatever, you just come to this point where it's just, it doesn't really work anymore. I think we're kind of seeing that with a lot of the players. Dele Alli's, a good example. Eriksen, who have been 2 of their best players for the last 5 seasons.
Yeah.
So it is this weird vibe, and I think that Spurs maybe need to move on for Pochettino, and Pochettino needs to move on for Spurs. I think for the best of both parties, this could be the last season, Barney. Does that worry you?
I don't agree. I would like Pochettino to have the opportunity to refresh the squad and get younger, fresher players who are have the desire again. I think, as I've mentioned, those players who are running their contracts down, they're not thinking about Spurs. In reality, they're thinking about their big move and also not getting injured before their big move, because if they do, they'll be without a club. Yeah. They'll be without a contract. So, those tiny little percentages that they're dropped off, when you watch Alderweireld and Vertonghen and Eriksen play, to me, I don't see players who aren't trying. I just see players who aren't trying as much as they can, like 100%. Maybe it's like 95%, but it all counts.
Yeah, it does.
Interested that you said about Klopp at Dortmund, because he did carry on a bit longer, didn't he? He dragged that season round.
He came 7th in the end,
right?
So they did turn it around a bit, but they were awful.
And then he left that summer.
And that is pretty much what I think will happen with Pochettino this season if it doesn't massively change.
So on the manager then, are you saying you think he's going to stay beyond this season?
I'm saying I'd love him to stay. I don't think we're going to get a better manager. There's a lot of talk on Twitter about, obviously Jose's available at the moment. Now, Jose for me right now,
squad.
Jose for me right now looks like a great Manchester United manager for the job he did with you guys, frankly. And when people say, "Oh, with Jose Mourinho, you get a certain type of football, not very enjoyable football to watch." Well, to be honest, right now at Spurs, we're not playing that great either. So, in terms of the argument that people have said against Spurs for the last 5 years, oh yeah, you play great football, but you don't win anything. If we want to win something, I'd actually get Jose in, but my preference would be to stay with Pochettino, give him some money, let him refresh the squad, and let him build the legacy that I felt confident over the last 5 years that he could be the last of the kind of legacy managers. But will he get the chance or will he fancy it? I don't know. You obviously don't think so.
Definitely glass half full, Barnaby. I like it.
Think so.
Let's look ahead to Everton versus Tottenham. So we've got both sides' last Premier League starting 11 on screen. And the latest injury news as we record this is that Everton may have Mina available after injury, but will definitely be missing Bernard for a long time after Marco Silva revealed the Brazilian has sustained a medial ligament injury. Ouch. Now, Tottenham have Danny Rose suspended and may have Eric Lamela available again after missing out last week. So, Barnaby, over to you. Are you expected to see any changes from this for Spurs?
Well, obviously, Ben Davies will come in for Danny Rose. I think that's possibly a decision that he might have made anyway. I think Danny Rose had a poor game last week. I think it's fair to say. Sanchez, I wonder if Vertonghen might come back in for Sanchez. I don't know. I would probably bring Vertonghen in, experience against Everton, playing away. It's a game we usually do really well at. I think we won about 6-2 or something last season. Everton don't always do well against Spurs, so fingers crossed on that. If it were up to me, I'd have Aurier out. I'd happily put an under 10 in instead of Aurier, but I guess we'd go in for a Walker Peters, or maybe for me, back about 3-4 seasons ago, Eric Dyer played right back a few times, and he's got a really good cross on him. I'd be tempted to do that, but not the most athletic, so maybe that's why that won't happen. So either Dyer or Walker Peters. I'd like to see Ndombele come back into the midfield, possibly at the expense of Winks. I know Dave doesn't rate Harry Winks. I love Harry Winks, but for this one, I'd have Ndombele and Sissoko in a 2 in midfield, and then I'd have Ali come forward, possibly get Lucas Moura on instead of Christian Eriksen, because he's not playing that great. I'd probably have Lamela in instead of Ali, and have Lamela, Son, and Moura behind Harry Kane, who will undoubtedly score and win us the game.
Barnaby, I feel like that's the fastest person ever to go
This is
through
what we're going to do. This is going to be good. It's going to be fun.
This is not your first rodeo, is it? Very impressed.
I'd played enough Football Manager in my time where I know exactly what I'd be doing and where my arrows would be going forward.
Well, talking of arrows, what are we talking? Where are you looking to unlock the door against Everton?
I think it's a matter of getting the ball to Heung-min Son as much as we possibly can. He's so direct. He really worries defenders. Get him turning them and getting try and get some crosses in for Harry Kane, really. So that would be your fullbacks coming forward, starting up high on the halfway line as they so often do, and hopefully just getting final delivery better than it's been this season so far. And I think Ben Davies and Walker Peters, if he were to come in, that would be a good opportunity for that, because Aurier and Danny Rose, their final ball this season has been poor, really poor. And then on top of that, I'd say Ndombele for midfield, breaking forward. He can beat a man. He's the closest I've seen, certainly at Spurs, to Moussa Dembele since Dembele left to go to China. He's quick, he's athletic. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem able to play 90 minutes at the moment, which is a shame. So got to make the most out of him for like 65, 70 minutes while his fitness is still there. But I'm confident. I think we can win 2-1, 3-1, something like that.
So Dave, we've seen Pochettino experiment with a back 3. What do you think the best formation is for Spurs?
It's a difficult one. I think 4 at the back because of Everton play with 4 forwards at times. Obviously Bernard's probably going to come out the side, talking about Everton a little bit later on. So I think the probably going with a 4 in this game is suited. If it were to be maybe a 3, probably you're looking at Sanchez is going to maybe come in for someone like an Eric Lamela, see that switch going in, and then the back 3 sort of coming out. Vertonghen's usually left side, right, Barnaby?
Yeah, that's right.
Sanchez right side. I'd see what in terms of this, you'd probably see a little bit more narrowness from Spurs' 2 attacker midfielders. I think we sort of, Barnaby mentioned the fullbacks or the wing backs in this shape, pushing on a little bit higher up the pitch. But again, I think you've got that problem is who plays those 2 positions. I think the reason why the 4-2-3-1 works for them is because you can fit Eriksen, you can fit Ali, and you can fit 4 of those attackers. When if you only got 2, you've got to weigh up. Look, are we going to play Dele Alli in there? Is Christian Eriksen going to be in that central area? Because I'd argue that Christian Eriksen, sometimes his best football comes in that position for Spurs when they play a back 3.
Absolutely. It gives him a lot more freedom, for sure. It doesn't have to work quite so far back. What I say about the back 3 with Spurs, though, is we started using that the season maybe 15-16, I think, when teams would come to White Hart Lane and play 11 behind the ball. And I think we basically copied Conte's Chelsea at that point and tried to do exactly what they were doing. And it would start to work in those situations. Since then, it hasn't really worked. I think we miss Moussa Dembele so much in every single formation. What we had when he would get on the ball is the opposition would know that he could beat them with just a turn of his body and then move the ball on so quickly. So they'd drop off and it became just easier for us to have more time. We miss him so much. So I think we're struggling to find a formation that really works for us at all at the moment. For me, I would always stick with the 4-2-3-1. We're most used to it. I think it best suits our players. But he's been experimenting not only with the three at the back, but also with the diamond in midfield so much. And Dave and I have spoken about this before. We don't have a natural defensive midfielder at the moment who's playing well enough to play that role. So that's why that's not really working for me either. But I agree with you. I think the 4-2-3-1 is what works best for us.
So obviously we mentioned, Barnaby, that Bernard's out. Where do you reckon the threat could be from Everton?
For me, as a Spurs fan, I know exactly what happens in these games. The ex-Arsenal players will always score. So we've got Iwobi and Walcott basically have got to worry about them, because then Arsenal fans will be rubbing it in our faces, tweeting all over the place. They'll miss Bernard. I rate him. He was rumoured to be coming to Spurs a few years ago. I really like the look of him back in the day. Gomez also was rumoured to be coming to Spurs in the summer. Didn't get that move in the end. But I think, the threat will come from probably the pace of Iwobi and Walcott. I like Richarlison a lot, but seems to be devoid of confidence a bit at the moment. I was saying to Dave just before, I like Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I'd be pleased if he wasn't playing, because I think he's good in the air, and I think we are very poor defending set pieces and defending crosses. But if he doesn't play, then I think we'll be all right.
I'd quite like to see Keane get a little bit more minutes. I'd quite like to see Richarlison through the middle, as he has done in the last few games. Everton start to look a bit better. I think Theo Walcott's inclusion in the side's been, the directness and the ability to create something out of nothing's been important. But I think maybe Keane playing him in a wide area, so he's not the complete focal point of everything, so the pressure's not really on his back. Play wide, get into the penalty area, and hopefully he can start getting the goals that we all expect him to do, because he's a really talented player.
For me, everyone talks about Moise Keane being a brilliant talent, and he does look a great talent. But for me, if he was that great a talent, why would Juventus be selling him? I don't think that makes sense to me.
I think they probably have a buyback in the clause. I think it's one of those things where some players, like Kevin De Bruyne, Lukaku, actually got to a level that they're at right now is because they went then they came back. You got to play football, and I think that's the important side, that if he's not playing, then Everton isn't in the right move for him.
Right then, cheers for that, guys. We have a weekend full of football. So let's take a look at the rest of the fixtures on the screen. And I'll ask you both for just a brief verdict on how you think these are going to play out. So, Barnaby, I will start with you. The Saturday early kickoff, we've got Bournemouth, Man United.
So I think, in general, early kickoffs not that high-scoring games. There are rare occasions where there are, but I think this will be a tight one. I think Bournemouth, very good at home. I like Eddie Howe a lot. United have turned the corner, though. I'm going to say definitely both teams to score, but United might nick it 2-1.
Thank you. Right then, Dave, Arsenal-Wolves.
Interesting one. Of course, the 5-5 draw midweek. But Wolves look like a side that they need that rest period before they can get back up to the top level. Europa League's been a problem for them. So I think Wolves may turn over Arsenal here. I think Raul Jimenez is due a goal. I think his creativity-wise has been really good this season. I want to see Adama Traore at centre-forward. He did really well against City, grabbed those 2 goals. So if they play that right, Traore with Jimenez up top, Wolves could win this.
Yeah. Bad atmosphere at the Emirates at the moment as well. So all it'll take for them is for them not to score first 15 minutes. The crowd will get on their backs. Wolves turn them over 2-0. Everybody's happy.
Oh, we shall see. Thanks, Barnaby. Right then, big game this for Aston Villa at Villa Park against Liverpool.
I think Liverpool will win this 2-0. I can't see Aston Villa threatening them, to be honest. Liverpool are just racking up the victories. Did well from a difficult position, losing 1-0 early on against Spurs last week, but really just turned the power on. I just can't see Villa threatening them, to be honest.
No, I think if any player, Jack Grealish, played really well against City last week.
Love him.
At the same time, in terms of chances created from open play, only Kevin De Bruyne has got more as a midfielder. So you've got a player in there, John McGinn as well, can get into the penalty area and get shots away. But Villa have conceded the most shots on their goal this season. So you're playing against a potent front three. I think there's only one winner in this game.
Right then, Dave, Brighton-Norwich.
Norwich are a weird one. Started so well, beat Man City, and then they've been absolutely toothless. Pukki's a player that scored 5 in his first 3 games. Now in his last 5, he's got no goals. Bundia's probably the guy that's going to pick them up creativity-wise. I just think Brighton, they look, after they beat Spurs, actually look very good in that game. They're starting to really see what Potter's got as a manager in the Premier League. So for me, Going to go
Brighton
for a Brighton win.
Nice. Right then, Southampton aren't going to be looking forward to this one, are they, against Man City?
No, well, obviously they got done 9 and then they lost 3-1 to City in the Cup in the week. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was at least a 3-goal swing as well. 3-0 City, I'd say, on this one. I don't think Southampton got what it takes to trouble them at all.
Sorry, Southampton. This one could be good. Sheffield United, Burnley.
This is going to be an ugly game of football, but one for the neutral in a way.
Play it quite nice.
They
on
do,
the ground,
but it's
don't
going to be quite direct. It's going to be physical. It's going to be more of a 90s Premier League game, which is quite exciting in its own right. I think Sheffield United, in terms of their defence, have been very good. Dean Henderson's got 4 clean sheets this season. Nice. Only Ederson, Man City's goalkeeper's got more. So Chris Wilder deserves a lot of credit, but then Sean Dyche's Burnley have also done quite well. Dwight McNeil, a player that left Manchester United because apparently couldn't cross, been creating chances. He works exceedingly hard off the ball. So this is going to be a really good game. But I could see Sheffield United nicking it 2-1.
Yeah, can I just say about the two managers? I think this is a good example of if Chris Wilder and Sean Dyche were foreign, people would be talking to them about possible future England managers. But because they're not.
But I think they're both at the perfect place. You know, Chris Wilder's a Sheffield United fan. Sean Dyche has pretty much built Burnley up. They shouldn't be looking to go anywhere. This is kind of where they should be.
But they shouldn't be overlooked either.
No, they shouldn't. I agree with that. But I think they both. It's like that sort of legacy clubs in a way where they, like Sam Allardyce when he was at Bolton, just stay there for as long as possible and try and get these clubs, pushing for Europe.
They're happy making their mark there.
They're happy.
Right then, West Ham are going to be looking for a win over Newcastle, aren't they, Barnaby?
Yeah, I think West Ham are like Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know what you're going to get with West Ham. As a Spurs fan, it's always hilarious when West Ham lose, especially at home because their fans go absolutely mad. But Newcastle have got some kind of exciting attacking players, and the guy with the mad hair, Sam Maxime, he doesn't know what he's going to do next, so no one knows what he's going to do next. I think if Newcastle can grab the first goal in this one, the fans will get on West Ham's back. It'll be ever more hilarious, and I fancy Newcastle to nick it maybe 2-1.
Really? Do you agree with that, Dave?
I think West Ham are going to win this comfortably. I think they've got enough attacking quality to open up the door. I think the balance, they just need to adjust that. As soon as they get that down, Yarmolenko is a man in form. In the month of October, chances created, goals, absolutely everything. So he could be the danger for Newcastle.
Oh, different opinions here then. Oh, Chelsea, been in form recently, taking on Watford.
I think this is a simple win for Frank Lampard. I think United show there's a way you can get at Chelsea. You can stop them playing out the back. But it was a penalty and a free kick that did unlock the door in that game. Chelsea have been very good. Tammy Abraham's impressed this season. Pulisic as well. Not a starter, scores a hat-trick last week. Hudson-Odoi's in very, very good form. So they've got a lot of options, which you wouldn't expect for a team that was banned from making transfers in the summer. So I'd expect Chelsea to blow up a very poor Watford side away.
They're much more likeable now, Chelsea, as well. So now that they're playing the young English kids, it's actually almost, I don't mind watching Chelsea and seeing them win. It's hard as a Spurs fan to say, but whereas before they just buy everything, now it's kind of nice to see the academy.
You feel like you're rooting for them a bit more then.
Not as if they haven't really bought their academy and paid loads of money for all the top talents in Europe for the last 5 seasons, but we'll just forget that.
We move on to Sunday's fixtures. We've got Palace v Leicester, the 2 o'clock kickoff.
I mean, Leicester will turn them over, I think. I think Palace aren't doing that. Well, no, actually, Palace have started all right, haven't they?
I think defensively at home, they've conceded 3 goals.
Yeah, okay.
So it could be a team that captures them.
Yeah, I like watching Leicester at the moment as well. Yeah. It's hard to say because I think they might take Spurs' top 4 place, but they're playing great stuff. James Maddison, always a threat. Jamie Vardy getting in behind as well as he ever has done. I don't know. Palace have started well, but I fancy Leicester to nick this one. Yeah, 1-0.
I think in terms of Leicester, Chilwell was a player that's kind of really kicked on under Brendan Rodgers. A player that needed to add something to his game previously. But I think Rodgers is, going forward. Last week, of course, the demolition against Southampton, he created 5 chances, 2 assists. If you look at defenders since Brendan Rodgers took over, only Trent and Robertson have got more assists than him. So there's progress there, and I quite like to see those English players stepping the game, but not getting stagnated, because there's too many players that we've seen over the last 10 years that have been English that we've had big hopes for, like a Jack Wilshere, let's say, that have just absolutely dropped off a cliff. So I think Leicester City simply take this game.
And finally, obviously, we've spoken about it in depth, but very briefly, Everton v Spurs, Barnaby.
Yeah, I just think we've got a good record there. Everton, Silva's under pressure. Pochettino's obviously under pressure as well, but I think as long as we don't concede really early, which we have a tendency to do, although not against Liverpool, admittedly, if we don't concede early, I can see the fans getting on their back a bit as well, and I think we can win it 2 or 3-1.
I think Everton may pull something off here. They seem to play their best football this season when they're either someone's going to get sacked, either Silva's gone or they've got a big team. They up their game. I think the best performance will come against Manchester City. So it could be a difficult one. It's like the old Everton. It's like David Moyes' Everton where they get fired up for the big game. So I'm going to go Everton to win.
Well, we shall see. Right then, Barnaby, before we let you go, we want to play a game with you. It's the fabled Squawka Challenge. So you can have a look at the leaderboard here. We can see Sam Lee at the top there with 28, Jamie Jackson 24, and third place at the minute, Paul Machin with 12.
Okay.
Right, are you up for this?
I'm up for it. I don't know what it involves, but I'm up for it.
I think you need to beat Rory. That's your target today, Barnaby.
Okay.
That's it. If you can get more than 5 on this, you
Okay.
win. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, what I would like you to do, Barnaby, is in 60 seconds, name as many Brazilian football clubs as you can, starting now.
And I get 1 point for each club.
You do? Go.
Who got 28? Okay, so I'm going to go Vasco da Gama, Grêmio, Internacional. I've got a dodgy finger here. Sao Paulo, Cruzeiro. I've said Internacional.
You're already joint bottom, so
Hold
keep
on.
going.
We'll be all right. Botafogo, Chapecoense, if I'm pronouncing that right. Who else? Corinthians. Tough. I only know any because I played Sensible World of Soccer when I was young. Fluminense, have I said them? Palmeiras. That's all right. I've beaten Rory, so that's all that
Yeah,
matters.
you do well. Midway right now.
Who haven't I got? It's hard, isn't it?
Dig deep.
What was it? The same question. You got 28.
Yeah.
Goodness sake.
You're wasting time here, Barnaby.
I'm running out of.
Come on.
There isn't a Rio de Janeiro. Oh, Atletico Mineiro. Atletico Paranense.
Yep.
How many have I got?
Time.
12.
Time.
That's all
time.
right.
12.
12's all right.
12 puts you in joint third place with Paul Machin.
Well,
Well done, Barnaby.
good work, Barnaby.
These guys, I'm sorry, obviously knew the question before. or
To be
something.
fair,
That's ridiculous.
Barnaby.
two of those scores are Sam Lee's scores, so he's kind of
He's just an absolute
Yeah,
genius when
he's
it
good
comes
at
to
Brazilian football.
Fair
clearly.
enough. Fair enough.
Congratulations, though, third
No,
place.
I'm happy with that. Bronze medal.
You glad you came?
I'm delighted. Love
Excellent.
it.
Barnaby, again, before we let you go, just let the people at home know where they can find more of you online.
Yeah, I'm a Spurs fan. I have an Instagram account called Spurverts, so follow that if you like Spurs. If you don't, probably don't, because you'll just abuse me. And rightly
well,
so.
thank you so much for that, Barnaby.
No problem.
Statman Dave, thank you as always. Thank you as well to you guys at home. Enjoy the weekend's football, and we'll be back with you next week on Squawka.